I want to show you how I just created a wiki about transformer models to explain how they actually work so I can learn all about AI. And this is no regular note taking, it's real backlinks between every related concept. Actual connections, and not just a folder full of separate notes. I took Claude and asked it to create these notes, and 10 minutes later, this was the graph. Every note is its own note, and every line is a connection Claude wrote between them as it went through. Let me show you how this works and why I think it's one of the most useful AI workflows I found. Hey folks, so there's a problem most of us run into at some point. You're learning something new, whether it's a new domain, exploring a new code base, or learning a new research area. You take notes, and maybe it's in Notion, maybe it's Google Docs, or maybe in Apple Notes. Up until recently, I was using Apple Reminders for a lot of my note taking, and eventually all of your notes pile up. They live in folders and they don't talk to each other. And so 6 months later, you come back and you vaguely remember you wrote something about the attention mechanism, but you can't find it. And even worse, even if you do find it, you don't remember how it connected to the note that you wrote about embeddings a while back. And so that's the problem a second brain, like a wiki, solves for you. And Obsidian plus an AI harness is the fastest way I've found to actually build one. You can genuinely set this up in like 10 minutes. Obsidian is a note-taking app and it's free, but the important thing is what it actually stores. Your vault is just a folder of markdown files on your computer. It's no database and no proprietary format, just plain markdown files, .md files that you can open in any text editor, making it super versatile. The core mechanic, however, is the wikilink syntax. You have these double square brackets and you put it around any phrase, and then Obsidian looks at that and turns it into a link. If the linked note doesn't exist yet, Obsidian creates a placeholder for you. And when you click the link, you navigate to that respective note. And when you've written enough notes with enough wiki links between them, you get this. This is a graph view showing every connection in your vault. And so here's where Claude comes in. Claude Desktop with the Filesystem MCP gives Claude direct access to any folder on your machine, including your Obsidian vault, which means you can prompt Claude once and it'll write all of the notes and all of the wiki links for you. The same thing works with Claude Code if you prefer working from just the terminal. The vault is just files, so any AI harness that can write to your file system works here. If Claude is not your preference, feel free to use any of them that supports MCP. Here's the prompt. It's pretty direct, and all I'm doing is telling Claude what topic, what structure, and to use wiki links between related concepts, which is the most important part of this. And so as Claude writes each note, it shows up in the vault in real time. And each note already has wiki links pointing to the other notes that Claude has planning to write. And so when you click through, the links are real. It's kind of like a new way of learning. They navigate, they form a web, and even this graph view, which you can see. Every note Claude wrote is a node, and so every wiki link is an edge connecting those nodes. And I didn't organize any of this. I didn't build the connections manually. Claude uses semantic representations of the text inside of each one of the notes to create the connections between itself, and this structure emerged from the content itself. This matters more than it looks. With folders, you organize by hierarchy. And so this note goes in this folder, and that note goes in that folder. But ideas in our head don't live in hierarchies. Attention shows up, for example, when you're explaining transformers, but it also shows up when you're explaining inference costs, and it also shows up when you're explaining long context failures. Backlinks in this scenario capture those relationships. And so you can open the attention note and see every single place in your vault where it was referenced. You navigate by association instead of by folder. And you find connections that you didn't plan for. So for a domain that you're actively learning, that's the difference between having notes and having knowledge. Here's a few real use cases I've seen work well that you can probably adopt as well. Researchers building a literature map. You paste a paper into Claude and it writes a summary note and adds backlinks to related concepts across the vault. Product managers tracking a competitive landscape, which each competitor gets its own note, each feature gets a note, and then the graph shows you where the positioning overlaps. Another one is engineering teams documenting a code base. Imagine each module, each service, each pattern, it becomes its own note with wiki links between them. And then new hires actually navigating the system instead of grepping or searching through Confluence or your documentation code base. And finally, any student studying any complex domain, whether it be medical school, law, AI, history. The graph view is genuinely useful for finding gaps in your understanding, and the common thread is any body of knowledge where the connections matter as much as the content. So if you want to try this, the setup is straightforward. You can literally do it in like 10 minutes. Obsidian is free to download, and Claude Desktop with Filesystem MCP takes about 2 minutes to configure. All you have to do is point it to an empty folder and start prompting it. And so this could be your new way of learning a new concept. The prompt for this is in the description below, so you can pick any topic you actually want to understand better and then take this, prompt it into Claude, and then point it to your folder. Let me know in the comments what you'd build a wiki about. I'm curious about what domains people are mapping right now because all I've been learning about is AI, and I feel like it's getting pretty overwhelming. If anyone creates a wiki about cooking, please drop the link below. I'd love to take a look.